I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial, and today we're going to be talking about movable cofferdams in use for preservation of historic vessels. First off, let me apologize for the camera. Libby is up there on a paint float, which is rocking and rolling, and there isn't enough room here for the tripod with all the mooring lines for Olympia and Bakuna. We are currently between the two vessels here in the Delaware River. So we're freehanding it. So, Olympia holds the record for being the steel-hauled vessel which has gone the longest without being dry docked. That's incredibly impressive for a historic vessel like this from the 1890s. She has not been dry docked since 1945. So for 75, almost 80 years, she's been sitting in salt water. What that means is her underwater coatings have pretty badly deteriorated. The stuff above water they've been able to keep with a paint float, and the stuff way below water that's constantly submerged stays in relatively good condition. It's in a fairly anaerobic environment. But right here along the wind-water line, where the water level is fluctuating with the waves, stuff is getting constantly wet, dry, temperature changes, causes expansion, contraction. So this area was pretty badly wasted. Before the ship can be towed in the open river to dry dock, there has to be a lot of stabilization work done first. So, starting in the mid-20 teens, the Olympia staff did something that's been around for a long time, but is fairly new to museum shows. They built a cofferdam, which is this structure I'm in right now. The cofferdam can be sunk into the water and basically suction cupped onto the side of the ship. So now this area is dry and they can get down here and work on it. And what's special about their system, other ships use cofferdams too. If you watched our video we filmed at North Carolina, we talked a lot about this, and be sure to check that out in addition to watching this one. But that is a permanent cofferdam structure around that vessel that can pump water in or out to do maintenance on the whole hull. Here on the Delaware River, that's not possible, so this system is used instead. It takes about 3 days to treat this much steel, and the other 2 days to get the cofferdam set up and in place and to pump all the water out of it. So in a week, they can knock out a 4-foot section before moving along down the length of the side of the ship. So the cofferdam, full of water, is pressed up against the side of the ship. It also has weights in the bottom, which is what I'm standing on right now. And these weights are to help overcome the buoyancy that we now have because this is an open vessel. So the water is trying to push this up. The weights are helping push it back down, and we've also got water pressure on the outside that is pushing it against the hull of the ship. So now that we've got this in place, we pump out all the water, we can get in here and clean some stuff up. What's the next process they use? First thing you do is you document this. What is the condition of this right now? This is pretty old steel, pre-nuclear steel. It is been without treatment for a very long time, so it's both good as preservationists of the ship and as scientists to document what this looks like. Next thing you got to do is grit blast it using Black Beauty. So that'll strip off all the old paint chips that might be there, all the rust, the growth, the marine growth that's on there, and it'll give you a white metal surface to work from. Then you document it again. At this point, there's a chance if you were too aggressive that you might have blown through the steel of the ship. So you would weld a patch over that hole, but really you're just tack welding it on. Welding on riveted hull vessels is an issue because as you're heating it up, the rivets are slightly different than the steel. So heating up this area could cause expansion and contraction that could pop rivets out. It could break pieces of steel away from each other, or if the steel is thin enough, you might burn right through and you don't have enough material to actually weld to. So by just tacking in small areas, you're not overheating the whole surface. Next, your steel right now looks pretty smooth. Up here that's above the wind water line looks pretty smooth. But at the area that's been blasted, there's deep pits wasted into it. And those pits are your weak spot. So you use an epoxy to trowel on, and you're adding depth to that steel. You're filling in all the pits, and you're making any of those plates you just welded in watertight. Instead of putting a weld bead all the way around it, you're putting in this this epoxy there. So that's filling in any holes. So now you've got a watertight section here, and this part of the ship is ready to take the open river tow to dry dock. But of course, your final step is to put on your system of coatings above that, your paint. So now this is good for a couple of years, so the museum will have the time to fundraise to put this ship in dry dock. In the past, we've talked about how much it would cost to dry dock an Iowa-class battleship. Obviously, we're much larger. The price isn't going to be that dissimilar on Olympia, even though she's significantly smaller, because of how much work needs to be done to keep the vessel good for another 75 or 80 years. On this channel, we've already documented a couple of ships' dry dockings. You can rest assured that if there's any way to weasel our way on Olympia when she's dry docked in 5 years or a decade, and absolutely if we're still working here, we will have footage of New Jersey's dry docking when that happens in a couple of years. On the Coast Guard cutter formerly known as Taney here, and we have just completed dry docking her at the Curtis Bay Coast Guard Yard. Slater is sitting high and dry on the blocks for the first time in 6 years. So, dry docking is a matter of money. If you would like to support Battleship New Jersey or Independent Seaport Museum, there's a link down in the description below. When you make those donations, say that you want it to go to the restoration of Olympia if you're donating to ISM, or New Jersey's hull work, or something like that if you're donating to Battleship New Jersey. Battleship New Jersey does receive operating support from the New Jersey Department of State and also from a number of other businesses and private individuals. We really appreciate the support you guys have given us. And in addition to money, you can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing. That way more people find out about our museum, the challenges we face, and our social media channels. Please do that. Remember, there's a link in the description to ISM stuff. If you like our content, you'll probably like theirs too. Thanks for watching.